And we're live. All right, cool. So let me get some good lighting in here. All right. That's better. All right, cool. So we are live. I'm about to call my guest in. All right, so welcome back to the Positive Vibes Only podcast. I am your host, Mike Aragoncillo. As always, Friday, 7:15 p.m. Thank you for tuning in. If you like what you're hearing on this podcast, you got to make sure you support the podcast and share with your friends. Let them know what this is about. All right, so today we're going to introduce our first guest. First guest today is going to be a friend of mine, Jess. We're going to be talking about some cool topics. And yeah, I actually have another guest for you guys next week. All right, so the guests are going to start coming on. So make sure you stay tuned. We are going to be going live on YouTube every Friday night. All right, so if you have any suggestions, any questions, obviously feel free. We are live on YouTube, so I do believe you can comment. And that's it. So stay tuned really quick. I'm going to give my friend Jess a call. All right. She's going to be on with us. Forwarded to an audio. All right. That didn't work. Your call has been forwarded to an automated voice. Hello.
Hi.
Hey, what's up? All right, you're live.
Awesome.
What's
How
going
are
on?
you doing?
I am very good. How are you?
Good. I just sent the link to my whole family, so
Awesome.
no pressure.
No, none at all. That's what we're about over here. All right, so it's kind of I went on live. I gave a little bit of an intro. So we're going to talk about pretty much. I have some questions for you, but why don't you kind of introduce yourself a little bit? I gave you a little introduction, but I want you to kind of talk about who you are and, your passions on what you're going to be speaking about today.
Yeah, so I'm Jess. I'm from Long Island. We met at I Love Kickboxing.
Yes.
And so through the fitness industry a little bit. I am a creative digital consultant professionally, and I am also a yoga teacher in training. So I essentially work with small businesses and individual brands to help them with their social media, marketing, and strategy, as well as developing websites and creating their overall brand. So it's kind of what I do for work, but my passions are more on the yoga side. I love going on hikes. I used to be a competitive snowboarder. I like to surf. So it's kind of a little bit about me.
Awesome. And as far as yoga, right? I kind of wanted to use this as a segue into the rest of what we're going to talk about because yoga is often misunderstood, in my opinion. And that comes from someone who's only done yoga a handful of times in their life. But just from being in related industries, I know it's often misunderstood. So how did you get into yoga, and what kind of drove you to get from just thinking about yoga into what you're doing right now?
Yeah, so I've been practicing yoga for about 10 years. It definitely has its stigmas and stuff to it. It is not just glorified stretching. There's so much more to it than that. But I started practicing yoga when I was in high school as a competitive snowboarder. It was kind of, we used to do something called dryland training, which was basically like working out and training that's off the hill.
Okay.
And yoga was a really big part of that for us because as snowboarders, we're throwing our bodies on the ground, we're falling all over the place, and we're also always balancing. So yoga was really good for us to kind of at the end of a long snowboard day to make sure we're stretching our muscles and to kind of find some peace with what we did within that day. Because there was a huge mental component to competitive snowboarding. You're on your own. There's no team. It's just you. There's a lot of scary things that you do and overcoming new features and things like that. So it was really good for us to help center ourselves physically and mentally. So that's kind of how I got my start in that. And I this year decided it was time to do my yoga teacher training, and I do it at Atmananda Yoga Studio in New York City, and it's been an amazing journey.
That's pretty awesome. What made you want to teach instead of just practicing? I know a lot of people that take yoga and that they're very religious with it, but obviously there's a big difference between just taking it and practicing it and then teaching it. So what made you want to teach it to others?
Yeah, so when I retired from snowboarding, I was really lost in a lot of senses. Yoga was my rock through all of that. I dealt with some family issues, loss in the family, and like not snowboarding every day was very mentally challenging. And I really was able to find myself on the mat again. And that was really important for my personal growth and also for my physical health as well. I had a lot of injuries coming out of the sport as well. So yoga really helped me manage my injuries on a day-to-day basis more for the long term. I saw like so many like pain doctors and orthopedics and all this stuff, and yoga just was their first suggestion and always the best one in my opinion. But the reason I decided to teach is because it had such a positive impact on my life, and I wanted to first of all learn more about that because I knew that my knowledge of yoga was still limited and that there was so much more to learn between the anatomy of it, the spirituality of it, the philosophy, and even just breathing. Like I learned so much in our pranayama sessions, which is really where like I was able to connect to my breath, which is a game changer for me. So it was really about sharing my experience with others, deepening my own practice, and just trying to help other people, especially in the pain management field, is kind of what I'm looking to later on specialize in.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I know there's definitely a high demand for that. I know a lot of people that are against, like myself, using not so much medicine, but want natural, healthier alternatives, more long-term alternatives like that. So I think pain management's a pretty awesome field to get into.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of people now are like taking more holistic approaches to their health.
100%.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. Including myself. So I'm a big fan of that. I think it's a great idea. So you said you were kind of like, you needed to find yourself again. And along with yoga, what do you find that kind of helps keep you grounded as far as your mental health, your mindset, the ups and downs of life, especially in something like what we're going through right now?
Yeah, so I'll actually use this the COVID-19 situation to kind of talk about mindset a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So besides like fitness and going outside and just being around people, when that kind of was taken away from us, it really made us all look inward and figure out like how can we make ourselves happy without everything else that we're accustomed to around us. And I actually, a month prior to our stay in place, started my own business. I quit my job and opened an LLC, and I took a leap, and then we got quarantined.
Perfect timing.
Yeah, perfect timing. So that was a huge struggle originally, but I felt really blessed because of what I do, and the fact that I was doing my yoga teacher training. I had sent in the WhatsApp if anyone needed any services, and turned out like our studio was looking for someone to do their marketing and redo their website and stuff. So it was like very serendipitous. I ended up kind of diving right in, and because of the pandemic, we had to close down our doors and open digitally. So for the first 2 weeks of the quarantine, I didn't really feel it so much because I was just so busy trying to get these online classes up and running to make sure that like everybody else could keep doing their yoga practice.
Yeah.
And I found myself in those 2 weeks not practicing myself. It was like I was creating this space for everybody to do yoga, but it wasn't making space for myself to do it. And when we finally, everything was up and running and we were everything was done on my end, and it was kind of just a management point at that, I kind of sat down and I was like, oh my God, I haven't gotten on my mat in like 2 weeks. Like, what am I doing? I do occasionally, like while I'm working, I will get up and I will just start doing a quick flow on the floor, doing whatever my body feels, but not like taking classes and not even doing my yoga teacher training. And that was really tough for me because that was my outlet for stress relief.
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, that was very difficult to get through. And then finally, when I did, I started to take some time for myself again. I started practicing on my own, and that was really helpful. But as far as mindset goes, honestly, like I just had some really bad days, and I had to let myself feel bad.
Yeah.
And I would be sad. Maybe I'd binge watch Netflix all day, not even get out of bed. But then the next day, like I felt better. I just let myself feel what I need to feel so that the next day that I could take the mindset of I'm going to tackle today as a new day. I did what I needed for myself yesterday, and today I'll do what I need for myself today. And I think that we have to kind of take the pressure off of ourselves to like always be perfect.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm actually glad you said that because I try to do the same thing as far as like just kind of like being in a natural state in the moment, letting your body kind of feel what it feels, and rather than trying to resist it and pretend to be in a state of emotion that you're not in, and kind of just going with the flow. How do you feel like that kind of helps you, just like going with the flow? Like if you feel like sad, just letting yourself be sad instead of trying to be happy. And I know a lot of people, like including myself, I used to do like that. I used to do that. I used to like, you know what, if I'm sad, I'll just put a smile on and pretend to be happy. Like if you used to do that, I don't know if you did, but if you used to, what kind of major differences do you feel like from that or compared to now when you're just kind of going with the flow and letting your body feel what it naturally feels?
So I think the terminology you're using is really interesting because these are lessons that I actually learned through yoga. When I first started practicing, I was always pushing my body. I was putting myself in positions that my body wasn't ready for. I wasn't listening to myself. And I oftentimes came out of yoga classes with like minor injuries. I wasn't listening to my body. I wasn't doing what it needed. Through my practice, actually deepening it, I learned that sometimes you just have to listen to yourself and do what's right for you in that moment. And that's kind of like what we talk about in our classes as well, is that don't push your body. Some days you're not going to be able to get into your headstand. And some days you'll have a beautiful headstand. But it's not about the pose itself, but it's about your journey within it. So I kind of took that philosophy into my own life and said, like, some days, maybe it's not my body that's telling me something, but maybe it's my mind telling me something. And I owe it to myself to listen to myself and to do what's best for me. And I've had days where I texted my clients and I go, I'm going to be unavailable for the next 24 hours. I turn my phone off and I just sit and I like do what I need to do for me. And I put everything else aside. And that helps me tremendously because when I come back and when I come back to my clients, they always know I'm coming back 110%.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And that's even too, like a lot of, I like that you use that too with yoga. And that's for me, when I train clients, it's a lot of trainers, especially in the fitness industry, they're under the assumption that it's go, go, go. Like whether you're tired or not, you got to fight through it. And, mentally, I do agree with that. But physically, even with physical fitness, as far as, weight training and HIIT training and stuff like that, you still have to listen to your body. If you're jet lagged and you're feeling exhausted, it's really not the best idea to push through it. It does have a mental aspect, but at the same time, the mental aspect is also on the other side where you were saying you have to listen to your body, because that's how, I've done that too in my yoga classes. I'm stubborn. I sometimes get back into that mentality and I try putting my body into poses that it doesn't know how to go into yet. And, it doesn't work out. And then I wind up, getting injured or whatever it is. But, I like that you said that, because that's a lot of times with trainers and in my side of the industry too. They are very the opposite. But I think listening to your body is probably one of the most important things, physically and mentally, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, when we used to snowboard, we kind of, I wouldn't call it a saying, but it was kind of this known thing that a lot of times we'd be on the mountain at 8 a.m. and a lot of us would ride till the lifts closed at 4 p.m. That's a lot on your body. It's very tiring. And we would usually train harder in the mornings. And then at the end of the day, when people were tired, it was always like, don't do the trick that you're learning, do a trick you know. Because at the end of the day, when you're tired and like your body has been exhausted throughout the day trying to learn this new trick, you're more likely to get hurt if you push your body. And injuries in snowboarding are nothing to joke around. I mean, I've had a number of concussions. I've broken my back 3 times. I don't have a rotator cuff in my shoulder. The list goes on. And I had to learn the hard way. Like a lot of times I was like, no, I'm good. Like I can do it. But my body was too tired to land on its feet.
Yeah. And not to mention, even especially with snowboarding, if you're trying to learn a new trick, we're firing muscles, tendons, and ligaments that are not used to being moved that way. And like you said, if your body is already fatigued, trying to put that stress on your body, I can imagine the type of injuries.
Yeah, so it's like at the end of the day, like let's just ride around. Let's not like hit too many features. Like everyone just now enjoy the rest of the day.
And do you still snowboard just like for fun, or you ever hop up back on the board?
I do recreationally. I was really lucky to be able to go out for a week this winter. It was amazing. I was hoping to go more at the end of the season, which would have been about March. So unfortunately, I didn't get on the hill as much as I'd like to.
Right.
But when I do go, it's like riding a bike, but at the same time, I get so sore after because I just don't use those muscles anymore.
Yeah, I can imagine. That's good that you still get to do it, though. I mean, even recreationally, that's nice.
Yeah, and I found a new love for it. Like when I used to ride, it was all about hitting the jumps and training in pipe and hiking the rail and just progressing so I could compete. But I've found a new love for just being on the mountain, being with good friends, having a great time, listening to music, and enjoying being outside. Because now that I'm an adult and I work and stuff like that, I wasn't appreciating the fact that I was outside every single day. I didn't understand how amazing that was.
Right. That's awesome.
It was so normal.
Yeah, you found a new appreciation for it. That's all. That's really cool, actually. That makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. So as far as now you said you did digital media marketing, right? Did I get that terminology right?
Yeah, digital marketing. There's a lot of names for it. I think that everyone in the industry just kind of makes up whatever name fits their niche, personality, I guess.
Okay. What's as far as that? I mean, what do you do in that industry?
So I do social media consulting. Okay. I develop websites and I create brands. So on the branding side, which is usually the first step I do, is you get a logo, you get a color scheme, your fonts and everything like that. And that becomes the foundation for your brand and what your website's going to look like, what your social media is going to look like, etc. I work with small businesses and individuals specifically because I just love the energy from entrepreneurs and small business owners. It's so different than that corporate environment. I've worked in social for some big companies and some small ones, but I really found that I love working with entrepreneurs. They're so much more motivated, and they have this can-do attitude all the time, which is infectious.
Yeah, I agree. So go ahead.
No, what were you gonna say?
During still going with this. So during this time of the COVID and staying at home, and unfortunately, most businesses that are not deemed essential have to close for an unknown period of time. How are you helping your entrepreneurs and small businesses during this time of having to close and not making money? And how are you helping them with their staying afloat, I guess you could say?
So I work with mostly individual brands, and the yoga studio I actually do my teacher training at. I ended up taking a much bigger role at the studio, which I'm absolutely loving. And for my individual brands, a lot of them have full-time jobs on the side. So what we're really doing is trying to capitalize on the fact that everybody's online and just helping them kind of get used to like creating more content and being creative about creating that content. Because like before, I would have we'd have monthly photo shoots and we would go places and take pictures, but now they don't have me to take pictures of them. So now we have to get a little more creative with our content. Like, do you have someone at home? Do you need to get a tripod? Can you start a blog? And so we kind of just like go over what's accessible for them at home and how it's going to tie into their original goals and how we can use this time as like a building period to get closer to those goals.
Okay, awesome. I like that. Yeah, especially with the online, because everybody's online now. Even things, brands and stuff that I never thought could be online are working out to be online, which I think is really cool. So let me ask you though, with your brands and the small business owners and stuff that you work with, what do you find, not giving out too much information because I know it's your business, but what do you find is the biggest challenge for a starting entrepreneur trying to build a business, whether it's content online or whatever it is? What do you find is like the most common struggle that you were able to help them through?
I really find that a lot of times it's misinformation. When you're a small business owner and you're working within a realm that you don't necessarily understand, you obviously flock to the internet and you scour it and you look for all the information and tips and stuff that you can get. And I hear a lot of people like, we have to post every single day, or we have to do this, or have to do that. And then what happens is like the biggest mistake I see is people who are trying to post every day but don't actually have quality content to do so.
Right.
I'm a huge fan of realistic expectations and goals. I like to start small and build from there, because you have to get used to creating this content and you have to like create quality content. People can see right through it.
Right.
So usually what I do is I dial back. If they already had social media, I'll dial back what they're doing and say, hey, like, let's take a step back. Let's post 3 times a week, see what everyone's like responding to. And instead of posting a feed post every day, why don't we post a story every day? And actually engagement goes up, because now you're not just like throwing out whatever you could find while you're scrambling, but you're actually taking the time to invest and put value into the content that you're putting out. And I think that putting value into content is very underrated. People just don't necessarily always understand it. They think social media, got to post every day. I got to put everything out there. And that's just not the case. And I like to coach people through changing their mindset on social.
That's pretty cool. I like that. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I agree.
But it's more than, obviously it's more than just like post 3 times a week. There's analytics and target markets and evaluating goals and ROI and a lot of other technical marketing terms, but that's pretty much the gist, I think.
Huh. That's interesting. And where can people find you if they're finding what you're saying as interesting as I do? Like if someone's interested in working with you.
It's jessmilad.com. And that's JESSIMILAD.com. And you can book a consultation right on my website.
Okay, cool. This is going to be in the show notes too for the viewers. So you guys are wondering, this is going to be on the Instagram and show notes too, just so the audience is aware. All right. And for the yoga, right? So since you're still doing digital yoga currently, right? Through your studio?
Yeah, so we're offering online Zoom classes, and we're actually been able to move our yoga teacher training online as well. We were fortunate enough that we had a lot of stuff that was like being developed to be moved online before all this happened. It definitely pushed up our deadlines and made us scramble a little bit. but we have like an online program that you can do. It has recorded videos, and then we also have our Zoom calls, which has been super amazing. And then we even offer like free Zoom classes for some of them. And we just started offering beginner classes, which has been great because a lot of people are picking up yoga now because they just like don't know what to do at home.
Yeah, exactly. It's tough. There's a lot of moving parts to it that you need someone experienced to show you.
Yeah, so now we do beginner classes. So like if you've never practiced before and you're like, oh, I might as well try now, we go over all the basics of a vinyasa class, and you can kind of learn from the beginning, and it's less advanced poses and a lot more on alignment and understanding, listening to cues from the teacher, so you like know where to move.
Okay.
And our studio, actually, we have a really cool yoga alignment mat, which basically, I'm going to try to explain it without showing someone, but it's mathematically designed for alignment, meaning that it has where you put your hands and your feet for downward dog and many other poses, and along with a center line and a couple parallel lines that basically help you have proper alignment for your height because they're customized for your height. So now when you're practicing at home, if you have our mat and you're taking our classes, a lot of our teachers will actually use the mat to give you cues. So they'll say, like, move your foot to the 45-degree line, which really, like, I've been practicing for 10 years, and that was such a game changer for me because now you actually know where to put your foot.
And it's all like printed on there, you mean, right?
Yeah, so they're like they're really nice looking black mats, and I can give you the link to put in the notes as well.
Yeah.
But they're very sleek looking, and they have handprints on them, feet prints, and then other like lines and shapes, basically in different positions for where your feet and your hands are supposed to go. And then depending on like what pose you're doing, depends on like where you put your foot or your hand or anything like that.
That's simple yet genius. I love it.
Yeah. And it's the first one to be customized for your height, which like, and I think the only one. I don't think there's any other mats that are customized for height.
Not that I ever know.
Yeah, so it's like, it's a game changer.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And where can they find that?
They can get that online on our website. It's atmananda.com. I am not going to try to spell it, so I will send you all the links so that you can put in your notes later.
Perfect. And as far as if someone wanted to start practicing with you and the instructors at your studio, where can they find your videos and Zoom classes and stuff? How can they get in touch with you for that stuff?
So everything is on our website. You can actually sign up for classes. We have, similar to what we're used to with like a regular studio, we have drop-in classes, we have class packs, we have unlimited, and we have weekly unlimited. So you can basically just go on our website and sign up through the Mind Body app and just pick your classes. You'll get an email for the link for Zoom, and you just join. You can turn your camera off, you can keep it on. I highly recommend keeping it on because our teachers are really amazing, and they're watching you guys, so they're giving you cues and making sure that everybody's doing everything right, and making sure they're still paying attention to the student and not just like doing yoga and you're watching them.
Right. Yeah, I like that. That way, that's why I love Zoom, because if the student's doing something incorrectly or improperly, they can at least tell them, hey, fix your foot this way or whatever. That's why I love Zoom. It's such a great idea.
When I did join one class, I remember I had my hand like in the wrong spot. I was like in the zone. I wasn't really listening. And I hear our teacher, John, like saying, move your hand to the front line, move your hand to the front line. And I had no idea he was talking to me. And he just goes, Jess, move your hand to the front line. And like, that's something I get in a studio class.
Yeah.
So like for me, I was like, oh, this is great. Now like I'm being yelled at here too. I'm not yelled at in the bad way, but there's just, when we have our classes, sometimes we like to laugh about when we make mistakes, because why not?
Yeah, you have to. That's part of learning.
All the time.
Yeah, that's the whole. That's such a big part of learning, is you have to make mistakes to learn. I mean, I actually like making mistakes. I used to hate it. I used to get self-conscious about it, but I actually enjoy making mistakes now. It took a long time to train my mind to get like that, but I've learned over the years that when you make a mistake, you have such a big learning curve from it.
Yeah, definitely. I think that making mistakes is key to learning and moving forward. I used to make a joke. I have like 2 failed businesses, but now I'm doing really well. So without having failed, I wouldn't know how to succeed.
100% agree. And well said. All right. So before we wrap it up, I'm going to give everything in the show notes anyway, but I'm going to give you a little outro type of thing. So if people want to, you could just make sure this is all correct too before I pop it in there. So if anyone, any of the viewers or audience wants to get in touch with you for any of the social media marketing that you do, which is an awesome business, it's Jess Milad, JESSMILAD.com, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and you can book consultations right on the website. And for yoga classes, links to Zoom, packages that you could see, and to order those super cool mats. I'm going to check the spelling with you later. Somehow I think I spelled it right because I think we were speaking about it the other day, and I kind of remember. But
yes, I'm sending you one. So
yeah, I'm excited for that.
I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. I don't know, for any of the viewers that plan on doing the yoga with Jess and the instructors, I'm probably most likely going to go ahead and join those classes too, because I need to throw some yoga into my routine, especially once I have the mat. So you guys can do that with me. And it's going to be at atmananda.com. I'm going to give the spelling in the show notes later. And then I'll plug your Instagram as well if you want. That way people can kind of see what you're about. And that's pretty much it. Do you have anything else to add before we wrap it up?
I just want to thank you for having me, and I'm really excited to be on the podcast.
Yes, thank you for being on my podcast.
I really hope you've enjoyed the mat, and definitely when you get it, I'll send you a link so you can try out one of the classes. It's telling you that mat is a game changer.
Yeah, I'm excited to try it out. It even sounds really cool, so I'm definitely excited to try it out.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Yes, this was awesome.
If anybody has any questions with anything I said, my door's open. You can shoot me an email or message me on Instagram. I'm happy to answer any questions or comments, concerns.
Perfect.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks so much, Jess. I'll see you soon. I'm sure you'll be back on as a guest again. So thank you very much for coming on.
Absolutely. Talk soon.
All right. Bye. All right, cool. So that was Jess. I hope you guys enjoyed that little interview podcast with her. Talked about a lot of cool topics. All the stuff that we spoke about is going to be in the show notes for you to check out. And I'm going to plug all her Instagram, websites, and stuff like that. Once again, thank you guys. This is episode 5. Podcast is getting more and more successful, which is really, really great because it's all about the viewers. It's all about the audience. And now that we're going to start having guests on, all right, I'm going to start having probably a guest on every week. Next week, I have a very special guest coming up for you as well. We're going to be talking about completely different topics every week, and we're going to have different guests on. So I'm going to give you a little preview this coming week on my guest for Friday's podcast for episode 6. All right. Again, if you like what you're hearing and seeing on the podcast, it would be a huge thing and support it. It's huge support if you could share this with your friends. That's the only way I'm going to be able to grow my podcast to be successful and continue doing these interviews and episodes for all of you. All right. So if you like what you're hearing, go ahead and share. Word of mouth is the best way. All right. I'm going to keep doing more and more for you guys as time goes on, as the podcast gets bigger and more successful. I'm going to keep doing more for you. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, suggestions, obviously just make sure to let me know. If you don't follow the Instagram already, it is Positive Vibes Podcast. I'm going to put that in the show notes as well. So make sure you follow the Instagram. If you did not yet subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is what you're watching right now, go ahead and subscribe and turn on the notifications so you get notified every time there's a new video or a new episode. And that's pretty much it. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next week.